Welcome back to Brand Growth Heroes. Today, I'm talking to Eoin Keenan, the founder of Goodrays, a UK functional beverage brand doing really well in the challenger brand space. We talk about what it takes to build a category, why it often takes more than one brand, what it means to be incremental to your category. We go right back in time to Eoin in the back of a beat-up car in California when he was visiting all the best hemp farms to learn how to grow hemp that would lead to CBD that would go into his drinks. We also talk about what it means to be an Irish founder building in the UK and the kind of mix of pride and pressure that comes from that. We talk about how he hires and what's important and how this small but highly committed team of just 16 people is driving such incredible growth. I always laugh when I listen back to an episode when I'm speaking to an Irish founder because my accent really goes into full Dublin mode. See if you can pick it out. Eoin Keenan of Goodrays, welcome to Brand Growth Heroes. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Listen, it's an absolute delight. I cannot believe that we haven't met yet. Another Dublin person.
I know, we should be ashamed of ourselves, yeah. I have been meaning to reach out for years, literally, but, life gets away from you. But I'm delighted to be here.
That's good. And you're an avid listener of Brand Growth Heroes, I understand.
I am. I listen to it on my walks in Abney Park, and it's the number one podcast I listen to in food and drink. I've learned a huge amount. So yeah, thanks so much for providing it.
Thanks a million. So look, we both went to Trinity College in Dublin, and except there's like 15 years between us. And there's one similarity that I just have to call out because it's hilarious. We both won Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. What was your project on?
Yeah, great point. Great question. Great research. Still the highlight of my entrepreneurial career.
Absolutely. It wasn't not the raise. It was the prize.
2014 Young Entrepreneur of the Year. It was for a task outsourcing app that we built that basically got people in the community to help each other with jobs and handy jobs.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah,
Mine was
sweet.
on finding a way for the Irish diaspora to buy Irish National Lottery tickets.
Oh, wow. Did it work?
Well, I didn't do it. It was just the project.
But
But it was like the business plan. We didn't actually have to do it back then.
Well, if someone's listening now, they might nick that off you.
They might nick that off me, but I think they can just buy online. But see, there was no online. There was no online back then. The internet will never stick, we said to ourselves when they opened up the computer room in Trinity back in the day.
We didn't think it would take off quite as much as it did.
I used to skip the internet lessons because I thought, oh, Jesus, that's just a load of hype.
A quick sidetrack, but you know that the Irish government actually were initially offered to be the European aviation hub when air travel was starting to become a big thing in the Irish, instead of Schiphol in Amsterdam.
No.
And the Irish government said, pun intended, this will never take off. And they rejected it. So, we've missed out on a couple of things.
Oh, my God. Well, they made up for it then when they got Google and Meta and Facebook and everything to be in the docks as their headquarters, right?
Yeah, at a cost, but that's probably a conversation for another day.
So you went off to California after university, didn't you? And was that the start of your Goodrays journey? Take us through.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's been over a decade now, really, like in the full journey. The Goodrays only been around for 5 years, but my journey started at university. So was struggling a little bit with anxiety and with stress and became a bit of an insomniac, which is not really ideal when you're 20. And, I was kind of recommended a bunch of different things, but I wanted to find kind of more natural lifestyle ways of dealing with it. So a friend recommended to try CBD. And I'd never heard of it. Obviously knew what THC was. I grew up in a city. So I had found this guy basically in these kind of apothecaries in Dublin. And basically what it was is like hemp ground up into olive oil. Obviously we're much more advanced now. And I started taking that and I took a bit of a journal. And after about 30 days, I was like, wow, I'm getting 8 hours a night now and I'm sleeping properly. And that was a bit of a game changer for me. So I've pretty much been using CBD since then for 11 years now. So I became a consumer, and then I asked my professor at university, look, can I do a dissertation on this, on the policy and the regulations? Why isn't it something that's available to everyone?
You were studying sociology, right?
Sociology, yeah, exactly. And bizarrely, he allowed me to do it. And I handed that dissertation in, and then I went straight to California and Canada, which is obviously like the blueprint markets for the world in terms of creating the best possible hemp and medical cannabis.
Is that why you went over there?
That's exactly why I went over there. Yeah, I saved up some money from a summer job after my dissertation, and I went straight to San Francisco and I bought the cheapest car I could possibly get in San Francisco, which is an old Ford Castro, a Ford Explorer that we called Castro because we bought it in the Castro district. And I basically stepped out the back of it for 2 months, traveling from hemp farm to medical cannabis farm, learning from like the best cultivators in the industry how to grow, manufacture. And I ended up working there across California and Canada in the medical cannabis and CBD industry.
When you got on the plane and you went over and you bought the car and you went to all these visits, what was in your head?
Just learning. Like, it was honestly just like, I'm curious. Like, that sounds kind of bizarre, like a curiosity taking you that far. But like, I think I was probably in the position of leaving university, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, always knew that I wanted to do my own thing and run my own thing, and I kind of had that drive. And I was just fascinated by CBD. I saw, look, this should be a global consumer good. Let me go and explore it. I was 21, like, no risk, no, relatively low cost.
But the idea was in your head to do something with it, but you didn't know what.
Yeah, exactly. And but before doing anything, when I wanted to kind of submerge myself in the blueprint market, really.
You weren't just going to do any old thing, were you? You were going to do it properly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I listened to a lot of like entrepreneurs and stuff, at the final year of college. And like the best piece of advice I got was like, do something you are genuinely passionate about. And if you stick to that, that is the winning success. And that's like, part of how we hire now. Like, are you genuinely passionate about this? You bought into the mission and vision, because that's the stuff that gets you up at whatever o'clock each morning and gets you to make all the sacrifices, is the passion and interest. And I'm just really lucky, I think, to be working in an industry that I'm genuinely so interested in, passionate about, and have a history in it as well.
I totally agree. It's not like a job then, is it?
It's not a job. No, it doesn't feel like a job. Like, I was on holiday last week. This makes me sound like a real sad bastard, but like, it was a villa holiday, not really used to villa holidays. But by Wednesday, I was bored. Like, it was wonderful to spend time with family, but I love the business. And I think I'm lucky in that sense, because this has been as much a passion project as a business.
Your family is going to be listening to this podcast. Do you want to kind of maybe nuance that? Were you bored with what aspect of the holiday now, Eoin?
No, I'm going to stick to my guns. My family know me well enough that they could probably see it and twitch it to me. Look, family are wonderful if they are listening, but yeah, I quite like to be a bit more busy than a villa holiday.
So come on, so we're in the car, we're visiting the farms. What happens then?
Yeah, so when we were working over there, I ended up working with these brilliant cultivators about 4 hours north of San Francisco. And what we did is we grew hemp and we provided it to manufacturers of end consumer goods, right? So they were creating edibles, they were creating drinks. We were selling them off to breweries to go and create CBD and hemp beer and THC beers and all this kind of interesting stuff. So I learned everything literally from that kind of like seed all the way out to the customer. And when I came back to the UK, I met my wife over there in California. So ended up at the end of the harvest, we would go to these kind of like ski trips, basically, because we had a couple of months off. And I met my wife up there and brought her back, and she was from London. So we ended up moving back to London, and I was like, right, this is all I want to do. She always reminds me of like driving back in that beat up Jeep, and I was saying, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to go do. We're going to go do something in the UK. I know it's not legal yet, but we're going to go and do something about it.
How romantic. I mean, that is such that would be my dream romance, to meet a guy in California who's over with the stream, and then we're driving in the beat up car, and then, we're going to that's amazing.
Yeah. And she's amazing. Like, I'm very lucky also that she had that kind of like shared interest and passion.
Does she work in the business or?
No, she doesn't. I mean, like, she's probably one of my closest advisors. Like, anyone who knows this, who runs a business, like you like your partner will know the same thing, right? They become like massively ingrained into the business. They basically sit on the board because they're like one of your closest advisors.
That's a good point.
So she does, and she's kind of separate from the business, so she can look at things unemotionally, which sometimes we can't. But we came back to the UK, and it was illegal over here, which is obviously a bit of a stumbling block to start a brand. But I wanted to start a consumer brand, and I was realizing, okay, there's actually kind of some kind of like tides of change happening here. There's actually a lot of Irish people in the medical cannabis space and the hemp space and CBD space on the regulatory side. And so I helped set up end up being Europe's biggest regulatory advisory firm. And we worked as like the linchpin between policymakers, industry, as well as patient groups. So we were saying, okay, what does everyone need here basically to get this over the line?
You were part of the founding team of that business?
Yeah. So we were a business called Prohibition Partners, and then we had an event series called Cannabis Europa, which still runs today. And we had events in Barbican and the South Bank, etc. So we would bring people over from Europe, from the States as well. We have ministers of health from Ireland, from Malta, from all these countries that were being progressive when it comes to medical cannabis and hemp legislation. So collectively, we managed to get CBD legalized in 2018, which is great. And I loved it. I love working on the regulatory side and creating that framework. But for me, the vision was always to create a consumer brand, because I saw, like CBD in particular, how that could impact and disrupt soft drinks, caffeine, alcohol as a healthy alternative. And my viewpoint at the time was, and I still kind of believe this today, is the food and drink industry has been pretty bad at addressing mental well-being, particularly over the last 50 years, right? We've progressively moved towards ultra-processed food, high sugar, big caffeine. Like, none of this stuff really makes us feel any good. So there is something that we can do in the market that helps people feel better and be more present. We have a belief internally, like, energy drinks are pushing more stimulation. We don't need any more stimulation. We need less stimulation. And actually that will help us perform better, and that will help us be more grateful and ultimately be happier.
I love that. That's a really lovely positioning. I'm thrilled to introduce Brand Growth Hero's newest partner, Jolson. Jolson is a leading B Corp certified commercial law firm that specialises in guiding the founders of scaling CPG brands. With long-term relationships with clients like Little Moons, Trip, Eat Natural, Bear, Grays and Pulson, Jolson is also famous for advising the Innocent founders in their landmark sale to Coca-Cola. And believe it or not, they still work with the Innocent founders at Jam Jar Investments today. I'm especially impressed by how Jolson sets founders up for long-term success and by their commitment to championing female founders. Recently, I asked Jolson's managing partners, Phil Hale-Smith and Paul Chappie, whether it really can make a difference from a commercial perspective if you work with a corporate lawyer who not only understands your business, but also knows you and what you're trying to achieve.
The deals that you can negotiate can deliver massively different results, because you've got someone that has lived and breathed that for, decades alongside you, and you're often behind the scenes, so you're not actually going to be visible.
It's like having kryptonite in your pocket.
Exactly, that's what Jolson is.
Yeah, we're
kryptonite in your pocket.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Job
we can
done.
finish now.
Job done.
I'm going to get Paul a special t-shirt with kryptonite written on it now.
Yeah, maybe not in your pocket though, just kryptonite. Huge thanks to Brand Growth Heroes podcast sponsors, Jolson. Now let's get back to the show. What year are we at this point?
So when I left the regulatory advisory firm, so I was working kind of that job whilst also looking at, okay, well, how do I actually launch a product in this space? So I spent about 18 months working on Goodrays and starting Goodrays. So we really started in the R&D side initially. Kind of 2019, we all initially met. I went to see our liquid developers, who were the chief liquid developers at Diageo formerly, and then separated. So in my view, the best liquid developers in the industry. Unfortunately, if you want to DM me, maybe we can talk about it, but I probably won't publicize it because they're a little secret weapon of ours. But we spent so long, like, okay, how do you actually put like high doses of CBD into stable liquids at 250 ml whilst using no artificial sweeteners, whilst creating sophisticated flavor experiences, and how can we deliver 30 milligrams of CBD into products?
Why was that important to you?
That was important for us because from my CBD background, like I did a lot of work researching and understanding the preclinical evidence around CBD and the efficacy of CBD. And what we found was that there's stable evidence of usage of 25 to 30 milligrams of CBD every day for 30 days, right? So a lot of the actual studies focus on that dosage in particular and have found efficacy rates as high as 70%, for instance.
Is it cumulative?
It is cumulative. Yeah, it's like using, vitamins and nootropics and that kind of stuff. It's best used every single day.
Honestly, I did not know that.
Yeah, I think it's something that people don't quite realize. Like we try and that's one of the reasons we went into drinks, right? Is something that is convenient, that can be used daily, and like you can build up a bit of a habit around as well. And we find that with our consumers.
I just have to point out here, all these decisions that you made, they weren't, it wasn't just by accident. Like you said, okay, if it's the research says that, you know, you need frequency and you need it to be habitual, then what product fits that best?
Yeah. And we made a lot of like very conscious decisions at the beginning, because we weren't first to market, right? Like Trip have obviously done a brilliant job on being first to market, but there were also other CBD brands in the space as well. So it wasn't exactly like a totally open door. And to do that, we knew we needed to be more premium. We needed to ultimately deliver a more premium product, right? Around dosage, around liquid, around flavor. So I think you're really forced when you are second, third, fourth to market to have a real clear point of differentiation, both on product and brand. So we had to have that from the beginning. That's why we spent so long working on product development. Like there was points where I was shipping in hemp from California, bringing it to the lab to dissect and extract different terpene flavors and stuff, so we could improve the flavor level and bring some of that kind of floral green hemp note that maybe people don't quite understand is in there, and do a bit of education around there. So we spent a lot of time getting the liquids right.
Okay, I'm dying to try them, because as I said to you, I haven't tried them, which is crazy, I know. It feels to me that you guys have come like on this, for me anyway, maybe because I'm not living in London, this really all of a sudden voom. Has it all of a sudden gone voom?
I think, yeah, it's never overnight, is it? It's
No.
There's no silver bullets. But I think what we did focus on is like, right, yeah, do that R&D first 18 months, all about R&D, infrastructure setup, making those conscious decisions to be differentiated, making sure there was a business case that we could scale properly. And really, I suppose we built in independent convenience and out of home initially, as well as like we launched a D2C site when end of 2020 it must have been. And we built our case studies there, but we probably got our big break when we built a critical mass in the case studies and we found actually this is really working on shelf. We could bring those case studies obviously to Tesco, Waitrose, and we ended up, I mean, it took me 2.5 years of knocking on the door of Tesco to become their first and only CBD drink that they stocked, right? So that was a long journey. It feels like those things happen overnight when people see it. It's like, wow, that was so quick. But, you know, I had to do presentations to the C-suite of Tesco. Couldn't wear a branded T-shirt or branded hat. Couldn't even mention the brand. It was purely like
Why?
It's just Q&A around CBD, right? Like people didn't understand what CBD was. Tesco didn't have a CBD policy yet. We helped shape that. Like it was very much educational. Can we just come in and talk to you about the category and about the product? We're not pitching or selling into you. Like those are the things that opened the doors in the early days. And then in 2022, we launched in Waitrose and Tesco pretty much simultaneously in the same week. And because it just worked so well, it's taken off since then.
Okay, so basically you're working really, really hard. 2022, you get that like first jump of a national distribution, bigger jump in national distribution in other retailers, building on that base. And it's now 2025. So it's like 3 years of like serious national distribution.
Yeah. Three years of compounding annual growth rate of 100%.
Wow.
So it's just been doubling every year.
So you mentioned Tripper, have they been in the market longer than you?
Yeah, they've been in the market, I think, 18 months, 2 years longer than us.
So not that much longer. And I know that like when I was talking to Olivia on the show like a couple of years ago, she was talking about like the regulations changing at a certain point and only brands that had been in the market were allowed to stay. How did that all work for you guys? I can't remember exactly the ins and outs of it, but like you obviously were allowed to exist in the market. What was all that big fuss about? Because I can't remember what it was.
They put a lockdown in place, I think it was February 2020, so you had to be on the market prior to that date. And the reason they did that is because they had 13,000 products applied to be on this public list in the UK, which I don't think they anticipated that many products existing. But at the time, it was a burgeoning, rapidly growing market that was worth upwards of 100 million. So there was a lot of products out there, and they didn't want people changing those products or introducing new products until they could go through the full market authorization process. Which is why they put a bit of a lockdown on either side to say, okay, no new entrants until this first batch goes through the full market authorization.
So you were already there and you were in the market at the same time. Okay, I get you now. Okay, and so then recently you've just come out with a big rebrand, a really big raise, a Series A raise, yeah?
Yeah.
And you're in France and you've got a team of 16, is it?
Yeah.
Which is a pretty small team given, I imagine, I know you don't want to give exact revenue figures, but I'm sure you're north of what, 15, 18?
Yeah, we'll do north of 20 million sales this year.
It's amazing. And what it shows to me as well is that I think we mentioned this earlier. There's obviously so much room in the market because I know Trip's doing really well, you're doing really well. And you were saying to me that actually the more brands are, explain that bit to me about being incremental when more brands are creating this category together.
Yeah, and I think that applies across the entire functional drinks category. So like it is becoming the fastest part of soft drinks growth. So functional drinks as a whole, right, which we talk about, CBD, kombucha, gut health, clean energy, adaptogens, etc. That is growing 10 times faster than the average soft drinks growth rate, which is huge.
Can you imagine if you were Coca-Cola?
Yeah, exactly. And this is innovation that people want, right? Because people are saying, actually, do I need big sugar? Do I need big caffeine? I want healthier alternatives. You know, when I walked into the Tesco meal deal 5 years ago, there was nothing there for me beyond water, sparkling water. There's nothing there that offers actual genuine health benefits. And that's what we're trying to do as a category. So, you know, I think the functional category is growing really strong because there are multiple strong brands in there that are a lot of them incremental to each other, right? So educating consumers on healthier alternatives, creating a category and a space within retail that they call elevated key categories, which we've probably heard about before. But basically it's signposted categories, which they see as driving traffic to the fixture to take away from other declining areas that are adjacent to soft drinks.
Okay.
So they're seeing this as like a signpost area that brings people in. And for us, you know, in the CBD space, the CBD bit is the fastest growing bit of that. And actually with someone like Trip, for instance, we are incremental to Trip, right? So 2 brands on the shelf is massively more valuable for the category, but also supports each other's sales. So it's great to have other brands alongside us, both in CBD, but also adjacent in the functional category.
That's brilliant. And is matcha part of that?
Yeah, clean energy can sit beside that in soft drinks. So it depends. Every retailer does it slightly differently, whether they put it in energy or whether they put it in functional.
Do you know, as a consumer, where I see functional drinks in its absolute glory is probably when I'm traveling and it's WH Smith travel. And there's like, say, Gatwick, and there's this like an entire wall fridge of, it seems like a third of it is given up to functional, better for you wellness drinks. When I'm standing in front of that fixture, I'm totally overwhelmed. I feel like it's really overranged, but maybe there are that many different shopper needs that they have to have that many different brands. It feels really overwhelming.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there is some retailers that are doing it particularly well and some that are still in that learning phase. You know, WH Smith, slightly different model to some of the grocers that are properly signposting, whether it's with aisle fins or bus stops and with clear education. So one of the things we worked on with Tesco is, can we actually map out, each shelf has a small little blocker that says, right, CBD, these are the benefits, this is the features of the product, this is the brand. And each one tells you what they do. And you can see it like when you sit in the aisles and you watch people come and go, they are reading the pack. And I think it's one of the reasons we wanted to do a bit of a rebrand is actually to deliver more messaging on pack as well. We don't want it to be cluttered. It still needs to be, you know, calming and relaxing and true to the mission and vision and the purpose of the brand. But also we do need to educate consumers on what is our differentiation versus a kombucha versus a vitamin drink, etc.
So how do you do that when you're not allowed to talk about so many things? Tell us how you do that.
You do it through a number of ways, right? You look at the brand world and say, actually, which messaging can I deliver through which parts of this brand world, right? So there are certain claims you can and can't make in that brand world, but you can talk to people about the lifestyle, create content around the lifestyle, and you can also operate and work with selected partners and ambassadors that can talk anecdotally about your product or about the lifestyle that they live and promote that lifestyle. So one thing we try to do massively, which I think is important as a soft drinks brand, because ultimately like the best soft drinks brands in the world are also lifestyle brands. So can we go beyond product to talk about lifestyle, and can we improve people's lifestyle? So when we talk about calm and clarity and the benefits of some of our products, are we actually delivering that as a brand outside of it? So one of the things that we do, we just became the official functional drink sponsor of Love Trails, which is the largest trail running event in the UK. We're also working with Hackney Half Marathon. So looking at this like active outdoor well-being consumer, which is our consumer, and trying to help support them by supporting their communities and their events. We've invested in 100 outdoor communities in the last 3 months, whether that's providing travel so that people can get back to their trail running or hiking and find calmness and clarity through nature, which is essentially what we do at a product level. So can we go beyond product and actually give value to our core community? Because that's the most important part of our marketing.
So lots of brands explore calm in different ways, but Goodrays' take is kind of rooted in nature and outdoor well-being.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing about it, like we our tagline is the power of calm, which I think is really important. I think, calm as a word is hugely powerful. Like there are multiple psychology studies around how the word calm itself, just hearing that helps you to relax. But we know that calm is being used across the marketplace from CBD to multiple other categories. How does it become saturated, or can you create a point of difference within that calm marketing? So we talk about the power of calm, because our belief is that basically calmness isn't an end state in itself, right? No one is looking at saying, right, I want to just feel calm at the end of the day. Like the calmness unlocks more, right? So if what we talk about the why behind the why. Why do you want to feel calm? Why do you want, like, what's beyond that? What's better than that? Ultimately, people are trying to feel calmer, more relaxed, so that they can perform better, right? So that they can be more grateful, so they can be a better husband, brother, sister, mother, etc. Be better at work, be better with people, so they can be more present and ultimately live happier lives. Like that's really what we're about.
That's a really powerful question. What does calmness unlock for you?
Yeah. And that's something we do with our community. So we bring our community in probably once a quarter and we talk to them about this specific question, right? Like what is, and that's all our content. Our content is about like, what is calmness for you as these individual ambassadors, people we really love that are doing really impactful things in the community.
But I love that. What does it unlock for you? Because it's totally different from just what's, because when I hear the word calm, I think I'm going to finally get to sit down with no noise around me. But actually, there's so much more can be unlocked from feeling calm in my day. The days where I feel calm, I get so much more done.
I think that's hugely important, right? Because people don't think about it as a performance enhancer, but like, why do people meditate in the mornings before work? Why do you exercise before work, right? It's to calm the mind. It's to create more focus and more prioritization. And I think, one of the things I've learned from building a business is one of the most important things to that high performance is being calm, being focused, being able to prioritize, but also being able to see the future. And you can't do that if you're constantly overstimulated, overtired, and frazzled. Like those things cloud your judgment. And we're burnt out. Like people in the UK are burnt out. Like we talk a lot about, the British stress epidemic. Something like 66% of the UK are reporting heavy levels of stress on a weekly basis. And that number has doubled over the last 6 years. So doubled, right? The stress levels in this country is crazy. And when you think about like, okay, what can you do to control that? Yes, we can build in meditative routines, but 74% of consumers look at how diet impacts their well-being, not just physical, but also mental. So can we do more as a food and drink industry to address that? And that's part of our mission, right? Is offer people healthier alternatives to feel better.
How do you bring all of that alive inside your business with your team and your culture?
Yeah, to be honest, it's tough. And we have to face the fact that, there's slight contradictory messages between calmness and relaxation and stillness and all this wonderful stuff when you are growing at 100% year on year and you are in a competitive environment where you have to win. Like, how do you hold those two things in your head? How do you balance them? So I think, firstly, you've got to bring on people who are, stimulated by growth and feel calm in slightly chaotic environments that are growing rapidly. Like, they've done all these studies about life satisfaction and how long you live, and like high performance and, the right level of pressure with the right person is actually healthy, right? So you have to look for those people who look for that kind of high performance and enjoy that growth. And then I think you have to balance it between, right, we're going to move really quickly because as a startup, that is our number one asset. But we're also going to try and balance that, right? Can we help support you on an individual level, whether that's personal growth or whether there's packages around that, right? So can we do flexible working for the team so that they can be engaged and present with their family, whether that's at home, whether that's abroad. So we do 2 weeks a year, we do for working abroad. We do 1 day per quarter where everyone gets paid leave to go and work on charities or causes related to our mission. So we try and create benefits around that and create a culture which is open, transparent, trusting, which is a calming environment, but people feel supported, whilst also being able to move at 100 million miles an hour.
I'd say the picking the right people to do that must be really important then,
Yeah.
because so do you have like, is it just still at the stage where it's in your head when you're recruiting? Are they going to be able to deliver speed and great work in a calm way? Have you actually made that into some kind of like formula when you're recruiting and you kind of like have a tick box?
What we always hire on, what I always hire on is attitude over CVs or experience. Is like, are you really passionate about the business, and do you want to do it? I'll give you a story. There's a guy, Flynn, who's one of our field sales people, he was a window glazer before this. They're very good at it, and he really wanted to move into sales. He works in the field sales team. And our call was 15 minutes because, I can't really talk to him much about field sales team. I don't know that much about window glazing, but it was all about like attitude. And I just knew from him, like, he really wanted the job. He loved the brand. He loved the mission. He loved the vision. And he was just like, I can do this. And often what we try and do is we try and be somewhat realistic with candidates as well, to say, look, this is a 16-person team in a very competitive environment. Like, we have to work hard. We have to work smart, obviously, which I think where the calmness comes in. But we also have to work hard, and you have to enjoy the work. Like, you have to. I think that's the number one thing for being an entrepreneur is you have to love the graft, because you've got to do so many crappy, shitty jobs all the time. It's not particularly glamorous. Like, you've got to love that level of intensity. We look for that within the recruitment process, on attitude, on experience. We try and level people's expectations, and if they come back, then it's probably a good sign.
So how do you then manage yourself? If I imagine the fundraise you recently did, so you raised 5 million Series A. I note that you said earlier that you had already been working with Guinness or Diageo.
We worked with the chief liquor developers from Diageo.
So did that help then when you're doing the fundraise, or were they two totally separate?
They were two totally separate entities. We met the Guinness Ventures team. Oh God, it must have been kind of October of last year. And to be honest, we weren't fundraising, right? Which I think is probably when you meet your best partners. Is like, they had chatted, they wanted to get involved. We said, we're not quite fundraising right now, but we're planning to go to market kind of probably middle of this year. But we kept conversations going, and we realized actually probably could move slightly sooner. We could do a deal relatively quickly. So to be fair to Guinness and to the team internally, we got that done in 6 to 8 weeks before, which is pretty rapid pacing for anyone who's done like a Series A raise.
How did you get that done in 6 to 8 weeks?
Combination of both parties, like fully engaged, fully bought in. We had been relatively well prepared and well structured. We have amazing FDs and heads of operations who'd set up data rooms and stuff in advance. And I think, I've got an amazing board and advisory team. One of my business partners, a guy called Justin Stone, who I think is one of the best entrepreneurs in the UK. He's founded a business called Surfdome and is owner of a business called Passenger. So in the clothing space, he's scaled multiple businesses from 0 to 100 million. So really good at putting in that infrastructure early. And then our chairman is a guy called Shilen Patel, who is chair of Lucky Saints, who actually be a good guest for you. Yeah,
I'd love to have Shilen on. I'd absolutely love to have him on. I think I've asked him, but I'll need to push that one again.
I'll chase him on that. But they gave that level of experience so that we were kind of well prepped for this stuff and had a good team around us going through the process. And Guinness were bought into, let's do this early. Let's get ahead of it before it goes to market, which always helps.
That's incredible. And then, so they were your lead investor, but you have others as well, right? Who came in that round?
Yeah, we've other investors. We have a network of high net worth investors as well, whether that's executives of banking, former food and drink founders, creatives, a couple of celebrity investors like Vernon Kay and Tess Daly and Sam Fender, couple of athletes, mostly in surfing and snowboarding and stuff as well. So kind of a cool roster of different investors.
Very cool. You've achieved so much in what feels like so little time. And I know there's a huge graft and a huge amount of years that went before, you got your kind of national rollout in 2022. But it does feel like you've achieved an incredible amount.
Maybe. We're not very, I think, maybe you're the same, but entrepreneurs aren't very good at reflecting on the past. We're always looking at the next thing. I just think there's a huge opportunity. I think where functional health and well-being drinks now is genuinely we're at the kind of cusp and edge of a huge consumer shift away from unhealthy soft drinks and also away from booze, as you can obviously see. And functional drinks blurs the lines between those soft drinks and the booze and can capture so much in the middle because it's a multi-use product, right? Soft drinks during the day, non-alc in the evening to relax. I just think that opportunity in itself is hugely important, which is part of why we raised the money, is because we could see the performance in Waitrose of these products, in 4-packs and multi-packs in the back of store and some of the more premium grocers in the UK. We were outselling like Monster, Red Bull, Lucozade, which is insane to think about. And remember, we are the most premium soft drink in the supermarket, right? We are at $7.50 a 4-pack, which is the highest price per litre in soft drinks. And we're moving volume. So when you have the confidence of that, plus the big vision and opportunity in the future, I think you've got to go for it. So it feels like, great progress today, but there's a huge amount of headroom.
So what is the vision and the big opportunity of the future? Innovation and the science and ingredients seem to be very much part of your background and efficacy. Is that what's going to come down the line? Or are you going to change the face of what CBD or functional drinks mean to us all going forward? Give us a little flavour, Eoin.
Yeah, okay. So I think the way we look at innovation and NPD is we'll map out that consumer that we talked about. So we talk about them as the self-improver, right? So they're healthy, active outdoors people, right? And we're thinking, okay, they're pretty busy, they're pretty stressed out, they're always trying to optimize their day, whether that's sleep technology or eating clean in the dinners and stuff. The type of people. Well, probably us, Yeah. And so when you look at that day, okay, I think our drinks at the moment are fulfilling different need state occasions throughout that day, and multi-usage, both probably lunchtime plus evening. But there are other points of the day that we can tap into that aren't cannibalizing our existing range. So that's how we map out the NPD and innovation process. And then we look, as you say, I think our value is that we can move really quickly. We can take calculated swings on new categories and new ingredients. So being aware of, okay, what are the supplements and what are the trending ingredients that are changing the game that are truly effective and also truly great tasting, and working back and then matching that to the need state throughout the day where we can add value.
Okay, so you stick with the consumer. So you've decided on your consumer, that's where you're going to play.
Yeah.
And then, and is it necessarily always CBD?
No, not necessarily. No, I think for us, we define ourselves as a functional drinks brand. So our value is bringing new ingredients, new adaptogens, new products that help people feel calm and clarity. We define ourselves as helping people from above the neck, anything above the neck, right? Whether that's brain function, cognitive performance, mental balance, sleep, relaxation. That's the stuff that we go after, and that's the stuff that we feel like is untapped, basically, in the food and drink market.
And is it always drinks? Because I know at the moment you've got edibles as well and oils.
Yeah. So not always. It goes back to that mapping out that day from the consumer, looking at the ingredients, and then actually saying, okay, what format tackles this specific problem that our consumer is facing.
Talk to me a little bit about. You mentioned before we started recording, we were talking about being Irish and being Irish in London, and whether we'd ended up in the same places or not, and I'd ended up in Clapham and you hadn't, and because I said you were definitely more cool than me, so I wasn't surprised you'd ended up in, where was it? Bermondsey,
yeah.
And then you were saying about being Irish in the UK and how that feels as an entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think I thought about this quite a lot because obviously when I moved back from Canada and California, I met a lot of other Irish entrepreneurs, and weirdly a lot in the CBD and medical cannabis space. I think we've got a good appetite for risk and for startups. I think. I also think there's probably a thing, you'll know this, well, maybe disagree, but in Ireland, I think when you take a bit of a swing and go out and do your own thing, there's a bit of the notions is what they talk about. Do you know this word?
No, I know what it is, but the listeners won't.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, but the idea basically, in Ireland is if you're trying to do something new and I suppose innovative, people might think you're getting notions of yourself, getting a bit ahead of yourself, get a bit too big for your boots. So I think a lot of those people then gravitate towards the UK or the US or other markets. So when you meet those people in the UK, they tend to be those kind of risk-taking types. And also I think then there's an expectation of like, well, you left Ireland, what did you do with yourself? You know, when you come back and you see the aunt and uncle, what have you been up to yourself? You kind of want something to show for it in a way.
Yeah, have you made it yet?
Have you made it? Yeah. So I think there's a pressure in that way. And I think obviously here fosters a culture of kind of innovation and entrepreneurship. And I think those Irish people also, have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder to prove something.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I think, we don't maybe talk about it enough, but like, I remember when I moved to Nestle in the UK in 1999, and every morning people would say to me in the lift, top of the morning to you.
Yeah.
And, did you have any potatoes for your dinner and all the rest of it? And I still have people in my life who say that to me. And I think, would you say that to somebody who was from, Southeast Asia? Did you have noodles? Or, from India, big bowl of rice when you went home last night? Like, people go, oh, for God's sake, Fee, don't be sensitive. But actually, no, there is this like joke. I just think it's really not good. I don't think it's nice.
It was. I mean, it's still happening. Like when I first moved back, 2017. Yeah, so it's like it's definitely still happening. I think it's I think we're also.
We have a laugh at ourselves. We're good natured.
Yeah, we're too good natured. We're too unconfrontational. I mean, I even struggled that a little bit. Like as founder and CEO, is like. I'm probably not the most confrontational CEO or founder. Like I try and find different ways of motivating or addressing, but I don't necessarily fly off the handle at work. Maybe like I know that is common in fast run startups, and some of that's good and some of that's bad, right? Sometimes you can end up being a bit too soft sometimes,
and not addressing things that need to be addressed.
Addressing things. So I've worked on that massively within myself. But I think as a non-confrontational, good-natured people, like people also then think that they could probably take the piss without you getting offended. Oh, well, that's your humor in a way, isn't it?
I know, it's a funny one though. I just it's just something that I've noticed over so many years. And I wonder why it isn't put into the same like pot as, well, you can't really talk about somebody's, food, culture, habits, accent, and almost caricature it for any other country, but it's free for all for Irish people.
Yeah, and not to make this a Republicanist podcast, but like English people, I talk to this a lot about my in-laws who are obviously English as well. Actually, good topic of conversation for the holidays is like the history of our Ireland and England is like we're probably more sensitive to how the English treat us, and they think, oh, well, you're just the same as us, it's just like us, maybe banter between a northerner and a southerner, and it's like, well, it's kind of a long distance of history there, and they don't necessarily teach it as well, so it's not structurally put in place where people can become aware of it and maybe more sensitive to it.
Yeah, absolutely. No listeners should get me wrong. I've lived in the UK. Well, I don't live in the UK now. I live in the Isle of Man, which is very different. But, I adore everybody from all nations. But I just was raising it almost as a point of interest, that it's something that niggles at me. And it isn't even, it could be someone from anywhere in the world. It's American people do it all the time as well to Irish people. I just think it's interesting. As an Irish person, it's we get it a lot, don't we?
It is interesting. And I think it might be, you see this a lot in London. And I'm quite lucky, obviously, having an English partner. So, it kind of opens up that world of networking and communicating. Also, I work with predominantly English people. And in our food and drink industry, it's predominantly, English people as well from here. So in a way, I'm a sort of an outsider to that, but getting a gaze in. And I think a lot of Irish people obviously stick to themselves over here as well in London as well. So probably a reason behind that.
I actually was thinking as we started talking, there's so many Irish food and drink entrepreneurs that I have in my network that I've never got together with as a group. I'd love to do that. Like, you and me and Cian and Sam Denigan and Shane from Feed and so many Irish entrepreneurs in food and drink.
I would love that. Yeah,
we should go for a big dinner or something. It'd be really nice.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, okay, so what's next now with all this money? What are you going to do?
Well, it's all allocated, isn't it? Pretty much already. We've mapped out the growth plan. We are still just scratching the surface, I think, in where we are in retail, right? So the performance is exceptional, but I think there's more to do on distribution. So there's a huge amount of headroom in all our grocers. We're launching in a couple more this year, but also having big expansion plans within the existing ones, which I'm super excited about. So we have to back that and support that correctly. We've never really spent on brand, like I think we've focused with this rebrand on getting brand equity right, positioning right, look and feel right. And now we're going to go and invest behind it to actually drive people into it. And we can see already from the early reads on how that rebrand is performing is massively outperforming our previous performance, which is already significant for the category.
Even on shelf or just D2C?
Even on shelf, yeah. And normally there's a lag between your new brand coming in and your old brand going out, right? Whether that's stock issues or consumers trying to adjust to it. But the early reads that we've got are incredibly positive in terms of how that's performing.
So you've simplified the can. Talk us through a little bit the decisions you made.
Yeah, so like initially what I always wanted, and I think this is an important thing to understand, is like whenever you're going through a rebrand, the brand has to be heavily differentiated from what else is in the category. And what we tried to look at is like, what are the codes and the rules that we can break, and what are the codes and rules that we probably should follow? And that's really where we played around with. Like the objective was premiumize.
Yeah.
Look more like a healthy functional drink. So if you look at this from 5 meters away, you say, I know that's going to be good for me, and I know it's not going to be a sugary soft drink, which I don't necessarily know if we had from the previous design. And premiumize. Those are the two objectives, and then find out what rules we can break. And what we found is like, okay, the color palette is differentiated from what exists on the market, but really it's around text, layout, line work that differentiates it. Most of the category still looks at kind of lighter colors, illustrations, and fundamentally, like the buyer of this product is more of an adult drinker, right? But actually you look at the soft drinks and you still look at much of the category in functional. It looks kind of like it's built and designed more for younger drinkers, right? Whether that's teenagers or even children sometimes.
Okay.
I think our category has actually been led down that road, maybe without knowing it. And I think you can add more of an adult, more technical, like taking themes and inspiration from technology sectors, from cosmetics, from alcohol that are more adult and more premium, and trying to bring them to the functional soft drinks category.
Okay, really interesting. Thank you. That's an amazing insight into what you did. It's great to know that you can already see the difference on rate of sale, on shelf. That's fabulous. It's really promising. And the last big question I wanted to ask you, because I know that we've been on for ages now, France. So is that your only market that you've launched into?
Yeah, it's our only export market for now. There's still a lot of headroom to go after in the UK, but France has been a blast. I mean, we launched pretty rapidly, I think. France opened up for CBD drinks, not overnight, but relatively quickly. And we saw an opportunity for us to grow faster than the local French brands. So we launched in, 4 supermarkets in 6 weeks. Carrefour, Intermarché, System U, and Leclerc. And it's a blast. Like, it's obviously challenging operating with 2 different markets, but we see the long-term potential as, the UK is building this blueprint for functional and CBD drinks, because the UK and the US tend to be these innovation hubs for food and drink. So can we build the blueprint in the UK to be able to grow out into Europe and other growth markets? So France is a bit of a testing ground for that. And I'm sure other European markets will come on board soon, as soon as regulations allow. So it's that blueprint that allows us to grow.
It's an expensive market to act in.
It is expensive. But I think, within this functional health, well-being market, everything is expensive. Like, opening up convenience is expensive. Opening up out of home is expensive.
Fair enough.
But we're building a category, right? And we need to invest in building that category. And we need to have the ambition that separates us from other players within the category as well, right? Because it's such a competitive space. The reality is you need to be well capitalized, and you need to have big ambitions, and you need to spend to grow. Obviously, calculated, smart, test and learn. But in the long run, to get to where we want to be, when we look at that Red Bull size opportunity, we need to invest behind it.
I love it. What an amazing piece of advice. I love that. On that note, let's wrap up, because we have been on for ages, and I know I can hear your team outside the door going, let us in.
There's a dog barking at the door, which I've never seen before, which is slightly concerning, but also kind of exciting.
Exciting. I was going to ask you why you never became head boy at school, because when I looked at your CV, which I found on LinkedIn, it said to me, this is a boy back in the day who should have been head boy. Teasing you about it before we started. Why did you not become head boy?
That's very embarrassing. I really need to scrub my LinkedIn now, which I actually thought I did recently. But anyway, why did I not become a head? I mean, it's another embarrassing story. I mean, as a teenager, I was a middle child, potentially undiagnosed with ADD, so I acted out quite a lot. Something happened to me when I turned 18 and I started to really chill out and level out. But when I was like 16, 17, I just had a bit of an authority complex, which probably leads to the entrepreneurship a little bit. And I got in an argument with a staff member, and I basically told him to F off. I just didn't. He was squaring up to me. I felt intimidated, and I lashed out. And my parents got called in, and fair play to them, they defended me, which is very kind.
Oh, wow, that's nice. But it was interesting because you were still getting straight A's, like really high level of A's in your exams, but yet you were, having all these other difficulties in school. That's an interesting mix.
Tantrums, yeah, it's very two sides of the same coin. But yeah, I found outlets for that kind of energy that I probably needed to expel. So yeah, managed to get grades okay and on track, but maybe my behavior record probably wasn't as strong as it should be.
What an enigma. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today, and wishing you massive success, because I know you're going to go so far.
Oh, you're very kind. No, thank you so much for having us on. As I said, a huge fan of this podcast. I've learned so much from it. I've listened to it for 3 years now. It's my go-to one. So you have me on is great. That's a little, reflection moment just to say, oh shit, we're now on the podcast. That's sweet.
We're now Bread Growth Heroes.
Yeah.
Thanks a million, Eoin. Okay, sending you big hugs.
All right, lots of love. See you soon. Bye.
Well, I loved talking to Eoin. It's always lovely to talk to another Irish founder. I really love the story about him, leaving university and going straight out to California, picking up that beat up car and traveling around and really learning how to grow his own, what was going to be the principal ingredient in his value proposition. I learned a lot about, incremental category value and how it takes more than just one brand to create a new category. I hope you got as much out of the episode as I did and the conversation as I did. If you liked the episode, please do click follow, subscribe on your podcast platform and share it with another founder if you think they'll get benefit out of it too. Thanks again.